People come on YouTube. It looks so glamorous. Hey, how did you make your first 2 million? Oh, nobody gets to see when they had to remortgage the house 4 times. Nobody gets to see when people were not paying. No one gets to see when people backstabbed you. No one gets to see contracts that got canceled midway and you're trying to figure out how to pay your employees. No one gets to see the whole bottom of the iceberg. They just get to see the part on top if you've made it to float. When you're underwater or you're in the forest, you view life very differently, right? And it becomes a more humbling experience. And it doesn't even matter if you've been consulting people your entire life. I find that once the pressure comes in, whether you're going through personal troubles or the company's going in trouble, the reason why I find it's always good to have a different perspective from someone else, because when you're inside the forest, you're deep inside. It's very different than someone who's emotionally detached, and that's why I think people get a consultant to look from the outside. But I'm saying that in all humility, as as I go through personal issues, or I feel like I'm going through you want to call them diabolic wars or personal challenges or personal growth. Even if you yourself had consulted people, it is when you're in the depth of it where you need an outside perspective.
This podcast is sponsored by eSky, a revolutionary AI-powered state-of-the-art learning management system for small to mid-size enterprises.
Yeah.
So that's
the best time to get an outside perspective, because you're so in that minutia and in the weeds and everywhere else that you can't, like you say, you can't see the forest through the trees.
Yeah.
But someone else, comes in or reframe it, or but you get to look at it from a different perspective. But that's when you start thinking more in the. For me, I find that's when it becomes more solutions focused than what it is. Okay, I'm seeing just the problem and no way out. That's not a great experience.
No, absolutely. So part of it, we live, we learn. I mean, I'm happy we're going to end up doing the review of the book, some other time. But the process itself, and what comes after, is not always what you expect or what there's what you intend, and there's the consequence of it all.
Oh yeah, even if it's unintended consequences, right?
Absolutely. I would say a lot of it is much more humbling than anything else.
Well, I mean, that's like, for me, one of those things. I strongly believe, that every experience is something to learn something out of. It's just a question of how long I take to actually get to the learning part of it, which sometimes takes a bit long. And that's frustrating too.
In your book, you wrote something interesting. In chapter 8, you said, business is war, so be ready. And then you say, don't engage until you're ready to fight to the death. Right? So that's a little bit like, you've engaged into something, right? Like, which is like writing a book, or you went through it. What do you mean by that?
So business is war. And I honestly thought we were not going to go to the book review right now, but I think this is a very good discussion. I do think business is war because there's always someone who's in their mother's basement trying to eat your lunch tomorrow.
Of course.
There is always a Sam Altman planning to change the paradigm. There is always a new technology that might make yours obsolete. So if you're not out there fighting for every bit, and every small piece counts. But likewise, a lot of things we have in life are like war. And I realize that without going into religion per se, but I think when you try to do good in the world sometimes, well, you're not always, going to be received with a rosy, glass of champagne, or, the world doesn't come and embrace you, right? So I think spiritually, many people are spiritual without speaking in specific, religion, but there is a spiritual warfare as well. And the moment you try to put something, the purpose of the book was how to live good. And the moment, from the moment we spoke about releasing it, my father in confession, my spiritual guide, was like, hey, expect a spiritual warfare. And did I get one, right? And did I get one? And part of it is a humbling experience. And I'm sure God wants to, keep the ego in check and make sure, our heads don't get too big. But at the same time, it's also attacks, etc. So it's war on the business front, it's war on the personal front, etc. And I think we all have to be ready with that. What do you guys think? I mean, don't you guys find in your business you fight for every bid? There's always someone else bidding against you.
Malak, I think that's you've got a great point there, mate. And it's usually as soon as what you decide to move into a direction, all of a sudden barriers start going.
Cancel.org, redefining global consulting, delivering world-class solutions through proven methodology, measurable and sustainable results.
And you get all these, you get what I call attacks, and people are jealous.
Headwinds.
And, there's all this like headwinds that come your way. But if you don't stick your head out the car, you're not going to get those headwinds. And that's where I think the majority of people are happy living in that basement, just doing their thing, getting their paycheck and moving on, just living life. But I think there's a small percentage of us that are willing to step up. And my dad used to say, Riaan, you're like a giraffe. You're the tall animal. You're the one sticking out your head. But expect the hunters to see you, because you can't go hide.
I stood next to you. You're definitely not short.
I know.
Or maybe I am.
It's always like that, mate.
My neck was hurting standing next to you. So physically and actually.
But it's like that, mate. As soon as you stick your head out, be prepared to, we sometimes hope it doesn't happen, but it does. And, be prepared to be attacked by the hyenas, the people that are, or the processes, or whatever you want to call them, that's running in the background, that's not impressed by what you're doing, because it's like the crab effect. You put a bunch of crabs in a bucket. If one of them start climbing out, the rest of them pull him down, pull him back into the bucket. You never have to worry about a crab getting out of a bucket.
Yeah, I would compliment what you're saying and even argue in it a bit more. They always say a calm sea never created a skilled sailor.
Exactly.
Skilled sailors are the ones, that go in and try to go against the waves and all the unpredictability of the ocean, right? You come from South Africa and Australia, so even surfers, hey, you don't learn to become a skilled surfer on small little swells. The skilled surfers are the ones that chase the storm. Right? Yeah, exactly. However, Gabby, there's a chapter that I called Confident Humility. And it's a term that doesn't exist because it sounds like an oxymoron. Confident humility. But in my opinion, especially the people that go out to try to be subject matter experts, try to go consult and do something different, try to do something good in the world, hone your skill and be confident in what you do.
Yeah.
But I think the difference between arrogance and just having that confidence is having the humility to want to listen and learn, even from the youngest person that joins the organization yesterday, and be able to pivot and say, I'm wrong. And a lot of times we all get carried away, me included, where you have a lot of successes one after the other. You've consulted many people, etc. You find yourself not listening to your surrounding.
Yeah.
But definitely a trait I'm looking for. So if you're going to go to war, make sure you have warriors with you. You don't want to go to war with a bunch of shy guys. No. You want to have with you warriors who work hard and are confident. They're decisive. They'll make decisions, whether they're good or bad. You just want to make sure they have that humility that if something makes them realize they're wrong, they're willing to question and pivot. And I think that is cornerstone. And every now and then, I can't speak of you, I'll speak about myself. Sometimes, because we're in the business of creating, it gets to our heads just a little bit, right? And, you know, we got to slow ourselves down and say, could I have learned something? Am I being overly confident? Am I kissing arrogance? Let's go back, you know? And I think that maybe is something that was really dear to me, and I put it as the pillars from which I call those the cultural pillars, 7 cultural pillars from which I choose in order to choose the people that will work in my team, the ones that have the right DNA.
Well, you know that saying where they say it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. You know, that to me is stuck with me for a very long time. It's like you get to choose who you fight that war with, if it's going to be alone or if it's going to be with people or whatever. But the question, the cool part for me is getting through it, and that's the hard part. Is making it through and getting to the other side, and then actually appreciating what you've done. But that means not giving up. That means taking a risk. That means putting yourself out there. And believe me, mate, you are doing something that 99% of people will never, ever do in their lives. And that's how I look at a lot of stuff. It's like, okay, well, you know, for some reason, a lot of people think that their opinion matters. It's like, I think that's one of the most negative things that's come out of social media. It's like everyone's got something to say. And everyone thinks that their voice is the loudest and that they've got the right to say things that, you know, they just feel. And all these keyboard warriors out there, please go, you know, put some comments on this recording, because we're not scared, mate. I mean, at the end of the day, we're protected by God, we're protected by what we do, and we're protected by our experience. And I think that's, you know, key for me, that we always remind ourselves that this is why we're doing what we're doing.
Go Lean It. Go Lean It offers a symphony of efficiency through lean services and solutions, driving scalable and sustainable results. Visit goleanit.com.
You know, I mean, the only part I'm hating is I found we're agreeing with each other a lot. But I mean, it is where it is right now. I fully agree with you. That's why the book is mostly quotations from people that I've respected. They're not my opinions. I quote people that are tried, tested, and true. I quote my father. I quote the Bible. I quote leaders in the industry like Elon and Henry, you know, and Ford, and et cetera, and people, Henry Ford, exactly, and people who have made a mark and have tested things and made them work. I don't think my opinion is what comes out as prevalent. There might be a small story, which is only in the introduction, about where I came from, because that will give people a little perspective on my purview in life.
But what I think what Riaan is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, you took action. You didn't just give an opinion. You actually went out and did a book, you know, and taking action. And I've heard one of the people that was in your introduction call or the kickoff call of your book, one person says, how did you do it, Malak? A lot of people write books. They just start it or come up with the idea, but never finish it, right? And so the finishing is, and you know, and the effort that's involved in that's all of these are actions. Riaan and myself, we were talking before you come on the call about like how much investments you're putting into this, right? Investments of your personal time, investment of your money, investment of the publication. There is so many people that are not willing or not ready to do that, right?
So, I mean, look, it's when you hold it in your hand, it got real only when I held it in my hand.
Yeah.
I prefer the hard
And-
one, by the way. The hard one looks better.
Yeah.
This one is so much. This one is better. So nice.
It's funny because I don't have one hard one, but that's the one I have right now. And when you say the investment, it's also the vulnerability because you expose yourself.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
talk to people about things, and you go very deep and very personal. You know, in chapter 3, I talk about the most important person in my life because without my wife, I wouldn't be who I am. I talk about choosing your partner wisely and why I think it's one of the most important things in life. Knowing very well that none of us are perfect, right? And we're all two imperfect people on a journey to work with each other towards that, you know, hyperbola of perfection.
Yeah.
So you end up opening yourself up. I mean, that's part of the risk you're taking. Now, the one thing I recommend, I mean, if ever you guys or any of our listeners want to write a book, the process itself is enriching. Because having thoughts that you use randomly is very different than when you try to sit down, put pen to paper, and write thoughts and then organize, structure, and restructure, and make coherence in groups of topics. I've realized it helps me crystallize even certain concepts that normally in a silo I would use. Now I put them in a framework. And that was a great personal benefit.
This podcast is sponsored by eSky, a revolutionary AI-powered state-of-the-art learning management system for small to mid-size enterprises.
Yeah.
Of course, the downfall is the repercussions and all the stuff that I was talking about when I said, you know, the aftermath I find not always as glamorous, right? It's like entrepreneurship. We were talking about this last time.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
come on YouTube. It looks so glamorous. Hey, how did
Yeah.
you make your first 2 million? Oh, you know, nobody gets to see when they had to remortgage the house 4 times. Nobody gets to see when people were not paying. No one gets to see when people backstabbed you. No one gets to see contracts that got canceled midway and you're trying to figure out how to pay your employees. No one gets to see the whole bottom of the iceberg. They just get to see the part on top if you've made it to float, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I find, so it's kind of different. I hope, I do hope if at least one person that needs this, because this is not for everybody, but for those who are looking to figure themselves out, because I wish I had someone that was an entrepreneur that was there to guide me. We had a lot of hard-earned lessons, and maybe everybody will have their own lessons, but if you can give them some guiding points, I think it would help.
We call it school fees, mate. You got to pay those school fees, otherwise you'll never graduate. And that's what I think a lot of people are scared of. You know, they don't want to pay those school fees. They let someone else pay the school fees and let that person put their neck out there, and then they want to jump all over it and say, yeah, but we don't agree with it or whatever. I think there's a lot to say for personal, growth and satisfaction with what you do. And at the end of the day, you know, if there's people that are not happy with it, that's their problem.
I mean, you're doing something good. You know the intention. You have a purpose of what you're doing, and even your book says about purposefulness. So, what matters? What people think. I mean, in your opinion, what do you think? You know, at what point the person's opinion should really hinder you?
Look, speaking of purpose, the original title was a blueprint for building a purpose-driven business and legacy. But then it was so close to purpose-driven life, and I didn't want to get into legalities or even take away someone else's thunder. So we took it more to legacy because, in my opinion, a lot of us in business strive to build something so we leave a legacy for those who are after us.
Yeah.
We're constantly building on the shoulders of those who came before us. So you want to leave your department better than you took it. You want to leave your company better than you took it. You want to leave your city, right? You want to leave your kids with something. And I think that's what makes civilizations better than others. So that's just a comment on the purpose. Now, your question was, and I got lost.
Like at what point do you care about what people think? I mean, if you're saying, because a lot of the pressure that you get from reactions of people is the negativity, is the haters, anybody that succeeds, they have to get backlashes. You will not be liked by everybody. So in this situation, when you're putting something out there, how do you,
not to advertise, not to advertise someone else's book.
Go Lean It. Go Lean It offers a symphony of efficiency through lean services and solutions, driving scalable and sustainable results. Visit goleanit.com.
Patrick Bet-David, on his book Choose Your Enemies, Wisely, talks about the haters.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And which are people who look at you with envy, and you have to be able to separate the noise from the signal. That's how I see it. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's opinions matter. Look, we're all human. When you're going through a lot and you're emotionally distraught, for sure comments come as the cherry on top, and it might be the blow that takes you down, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're so sensitive. It's like a wound. You fall on your bicycle on the street, you scrape your legs, the wind passes by, and it hurts,
Yeah.
But when you're, and that's why I constantly try to work, on self-healing. And I'd like to, because I think it's a work in progress, that, what used to affect me when I was younger affects me less now. And that's why there's this whole section that I talk about. There's a big difference between being a people pleaser and having a servant mindset. So if you're in the people pleasing mode, everybody's comments affect you. So you try to appease everyone in every conversation. But we all know, if you try to be everything to everyone, sorry guys, if you try to be everything to everyone, hopefully we could take those out in the edits, you won't succeed. You'll be nothing. However, if basically you're, man, these distractions really get you, eh? Like, it's like you go off a train of thought and...
Oh, yeah.
So
we're keeping it organic, mate.
Yeah, it's very... The editing team is going to have to do a lot of work. So I do think if people honestly mature, as they mature in their life and start figuring out the difference from the noise and the signal, you will either do what Patrick says and use the haters' words as fuel, because some people get motivated by that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? As long as it doesn't become, and the danger there is, it doesn't become your purpose for life. Because I say it, like, if in the introduction, I say one person challenged me and said, you can never be. And I said, watch, in 1 year, I'm going to make it to a world championship. I'll make it to a top of a sport. I didn't know it was going to be a world champion. And I went out and I competed and I actually made it. And then I got hooked and made the next one and the next one. 10 years later, I confronted the person. They had completely forgot. It wasn't even on their mind. I spent 10 years of my life. Imagine if this was something negative. I spent 10 years of my life living in a gym, not eating like everybody else, not going out with everybody like all my friends, living a very strict life because one person, and you could read that in the introduction for those who, will pick up the book, saw this once at night and said, hey, you can't be. I'm like, watch, and that's kind of the prideful thing. If the fact that God used it for good, honestly, thank God, so.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too. Yeah. We gotta use that in the way that we feel we should use that. It's like, like I said, everyone's got an opinion these days. Everyone thinks it matters, but to me, only the people's opinions that are close to me or that I know is a positive influence on me. Those are the ones I listen to. I mean, it's as simple as us publishing. We're putting ourselves out there right now. Recording this thing. This episode. We put it out there, and some people will watch it all the way through. Some people will just watch the beginning. Some people might even comment on it, and actually join in the conversation. But the fact is, the majority of people out there will just go back to their basement and they'll go and, be a keyboard warrior and, have their opinion that way and feel good about themselves and walk down the street and go kick someone else's dog. That's the kind of people they are. But there are good people out there. There's a lot more good people out there than what we realize. And, when things get bad, that's when you see them. And that's when they start coming out of the woodwork. So, look, for me, it's a question of, moving forward, how many times you can get up after you've been knocked down. And at the end of the day, hopefully you get to celebrate some big wins.
Cancel.org, redefining global consulting, delivering world-class solutions through proven methodology, measurable and sustainable results.
And that's it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing of all.
And you say often, you talk about like nice guys don't finish last, and it's usually the opposite of what we hear, because nice comes across as being naive. And what's your definition of nice versus what everybody throws it around as a weakness, and how have you seen that proven to be true? Like that. They don't finish last. So give us a bit of the definition first.
Yeah.
What do you
define as being nice? If you go to chapter 5, okay, and in chapter 5, which is right after confident humility, so I wanted to start with that. I say nice is not equal to naive.
Mm-hmm.
Nice guys don't finish last. Naive ones do. Okay, and I realized people's definition of nice are different. To a lot of people, someone that is nice is someone that's a pushover, or someone that people take advantage of. That to me is naive. Nice, that is what other people use as kind, is someone that realizes, I see the other person. I'm smart enough. I'm not naive. I see you're taking advantage of me. Out of the kindness of my heart, I'll let it go sometimes, and other times I'll create hard boundaries. Very hard, and I'll push people. I've realized the tougher I am, people come and thank me later because I've helped them reach their potential. We're no doormats. Being a good person doesn't mean you're a doormat. It doesn't mean you're a pushover. So and I didn't. It took me a long time. Actually, I think it was in end of 2024. So right before writing this book, where I had it as my goals. Hey, set boundaries. Have boundaries. Respect is something big. I give it to people. Now, it's very different, in my opinion, when someone disrespects me and I'm willing, for the sake of God, for the sake of my faith, you call it what you want in your morality. In my world, for the sake of God, I will let it go. That's knowingly. That's not naive. That's, hey, I let it go and I know what I'm doing. And
that's like self-control.
It is self-control. Because here's the truth. You don't see the big dogs going, it's usually the little chihuahuas. Big power has self-control. And I think that's part of it. I was looking for a specific quote.
Well, I'll ask you something. I mean,
Sure.
there's one quote that you specify from the Bible, and you talk a lot about what profits a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul, right?
Yep.
That's kind of one of the bases for you writing this book.
Mhm.
Can you just elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, that was the verse my, Baba, our father, would say to me every time, no matter what I brought home. So I came home and said, hey, I made it to a world championship. Oh, I got 97% in a math exam. And he would always get the same thing. A nice hug. Habibi, I love you. I'm very proud of you. And I'd say, yes, I know, Dad. And then it was the same thing. Habibi, what profit is there for a man if he gains the whole world and loses his soul? Don't lose your soul. Okay. And the main lesson for me is, what is the purpose for which you're doing things? What is the purpose? Is the purpose just wealth? Because no one's taking anything. Is the purpose just power? To what avail? So we gotta just put that in check. Now I say all that, and none of us are perfect. None of us are saints. It's a journey. It's a journey, and hopefully, in every single one across the steps, we're learning. And those who we encounter along the way, in our path of non-perfection, they can forgive us some of our imperfections as we're trying to hone in and grow ourselves, as we're trying to grow our business, as we're trying to grow our kids, as we're trying to grow a whole bunch of, So I don't know if that answers your question, Gabby.
So it does, and I personally bought myself the book. So this one, it's a beautiful book, Playing to Win, by Malak Sedra, the blueprint for building a legacy-driven business and life. I love the cover, and it's really the chess, which signifies strategy, right? How can we purchase this, Malak? So if you want your listeners to get a copy, what are the options they have? How can they go get one?
Absolutely. So it's available on Amazon. It's available on Kindle. It's available soft cover or hard cover. The audiobook is coming out in a few months, but it's not there now. So you can have it. One thing, I was talking to someone, and he's like, so are you going to start advertising because you wrote a book? Because and I'm like, well, who writes a book and doesn't want anyone to read it?
This podcast is sponsored by eSky, a revolutionary AI-powered state-of-the-art learning management system for small to mid-size enterprises.
I mean, then why did you write the book?
You'll be surprised how many books are out there that's never been read.
Yeah. So the purpose behind it was to put together the lessons learned that I've learned from people that are far wiser than me, and to compile them for people, because they've helped me benefit. Gabby, you and I lived in the same household. Without those lessons, we wouldn't have become the men we are. So it's put together just in a book. It might help someone. If you know someone that's at that crossroad in their life, I think it would be a nice gift. Thanksgiving is coming for the US. My God. Okay. Let me repeat that again. Thanksgiving is coming for people in the US. Christmas is coming. But I do think it does for a good read. It's very easy English. It's made to be an easy read. How did you find reading it?
It's easy read. I mean, you being my brother, a lot of the stories in there are obviously good reminiscing of, the past things we've done together. So, when you're connecting some of the advice that you're giving and the experiences that you went through with some stories that are really interesting. I love the pictures, also the selection of pictures you've taken about the world championships. I mean, a lot of it, I remember being there and seeing them myself. But I do think that it's going to give the people a chance to see, your life, your personal life, your service life, your work life, and connect it. I do recommend it a lot, especially for younger, professionals starting their career. It's definitely a blueprint, right? It gives them an idea of, what are the struggles, how to make sure that you stay close to your faith, your value system, because in this world it's easy to be driven by everybody else's values. So the advice that you're giving is right on point, and it is simple to read. My son, he's pretty much he's almost finished the book. He's 10 years old, so he read through it, and he likes it, and he quotes it, and he reminds me of certain stories that are there. So I think it's for all the ages, Malak. So good work for that. Would you like me, guys, to do the introduction? You want me to do the introduction as if it's so if we want to use it? Do you guys want me to do the intro? If you guys want to.
I'll tell you guys something, and to all the listeners out there, we weren't supposed to record this, and Riaan just decided to click on the record button. This was a casual conversation, us preparing for the podcast, and Riaan decided to surprise us by recording. So what you're getting is just the raw conversation between Gabby, Riaan, and Malak. No introduction needed. I think we go with that. And
look, that's what we're going for. I mean, and if people want to learn more about it, then click the like and subscribe button at the bottom, and keep following our adventures, because
genuine, authentic.
I mean, we have a lot of these conversations, and how many times have I said it? Geez, we should have recorded that conversation. So, look, we're keeping it organic for now. Make comments, tell us what you want or whatever, But I really appreciate the frank conversations that we always have, and I do believe there's a lot of value in that for myself, and I do believe that there's a lot of value in that for a lot of people out there that feel similar, and that's on that precipice of basically deciding if they want to put their stick their head out there, or if they're going to continue on the path that they're on. So I think it was a great chat. Let's have some fun with this and see where we end up.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Guys. Well, thank you too, and talk to you soon.
All right. Later. Take care.